Hi guys, it's Rita here and welcome to my channel if you've never been here before. So let's get right into it. So I want to talk about everything that's going on as far as protesters and the rioters and looters and just this whole idea of racism, this whole idea of black people in America, okay, who are oppression, okay, oppression as it pertains to black people in America. Now, I want to start this off by saying I am not talking about black people who have maybe migrated from other places, people who are well off, who've migrated from, let's say, Africa, who are now making millions of dollars, and they are talking about haves and have-nots, and talking about it from a standpoint of a non-American black person. And that is not what I'm talking about. I'm not poo-pooing on, you know, people outside of America, people who aren't black Americans, but specifically I'm talking about the culture, the American culture, okay, which does include black Americans. Today, what I want to talk about is what's being thrown around as black oppression, right? Systematic oppression of black people. Now, first, I want to say I grew up, I am American, black American. My family have been here for 4+ generations, pre-Civil War. So I am black American. I grew up in Chicago, okay, on the South Side, in the hood. All right. Let's talk about what it's like to grow up in the hood, in the black hood. Okay. So specifically to Chicago, okay, you have a vast area of black communities, okay? Some better than others, right? Some would say it's all the hood, but honestly, some better than others. You have some communities where there are actual law-abiding citizens, homeowners, they upkeep their neighborhoods, and that you will have pockets of that within black neighborhoods, okay? And so when I talk today about black community, I'm not talking about the black diaspora. Okay, I'm not talking about black communities in Africa, black communities in the UK, or I'm not talking about that because they're not all the same. So let's be clear. The black American experience is not the black British experience. It's not the black South African experience. It is black American. So let's start there. Okay, so back to my story. Where I grew up, there's pockets, you know, of areas in the black community, in Chicago specifically, where it's nice. You know, people mow their lawn, people work hard, they go out, you know, they go to the stores. It's nice, they're nice areas. But then you have pockets that are really bad, the pockets that you see on the news all the time, where people are shooting and robbing and looting and all of that, right? So, but some things I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to be airing a little bit of dirty laundry, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back to that. So the reason I brought that up is because I grew up, I actually, until like the age of about 12, I was back and forth between the projects and another area on the South Side that was equally rough, but wasn't the projects, wasn't one of the super nice areas, but was kind of right in the middle. So here's what I want to talk about as it pertains to this racism thing, okay? In these areas, at least growing up, when I grew up, it was rare. It was a rare, very rare occurrence that you would even interact with anyone who wasn't black. Even Hispanics mostly. I mean, you wouldn't even interact with that many Hispanic people in the areas I grew up in, okay? It was mostly black. You might, from time to, even in the stores, there were black-owned stores, so you really did not have a lot of interaction. Maybe you had a school teacher or two, maybe, in your schools. That was not even bus drivers. I mean, you rarely had that much interaction with white people. Okay, so what you do get is stories that have been passed down from whomever, neighbors, whoever. You get stories about how white people are from TV, from neighbors, from, whoever, right? It could be good stories, it could be really bad stories. It could be stories about how all white people are racist and, whatever else, right? And white people, whatever. So I just want to expose how Black people are being used and exploited for someone else's gain in this whole situation with the protest, with everything. Okay, that's what I want to expose today. And in exposing that, I am going to expose some faux pas in Black communities that nobody wants to talk about. Number one, let's talk about the crime. Okay, let's talk about the high crime. I know people don't want to talk about that because there is this collectivism mentality in Black communities that says we have to stick together no matter what. Even if your brother, your neighbor, your family, whoever is doing wrong, committing heinous crimes, you're a sellout if you tell. You are you hate your race if you tell. You want to be white if you say something about people who are committing crimes. Okay, that is one of the biggest, dirtiest secrets and I don't even know if it's a secret anymore, but that is one of the biggest, dirtiest lies that exist in Black communities, is that if you say something or if you think that something is wrong that is happening amongst the community, then you're somehow you should mind your own business. Okay, minding your own business is a big deal in Black communities. You don't dip your nose in somebody else's business, even at the detriment of the community. You don't tell, even at the detriment of the community. Okay, that's one huge thing. So then, what you have is crime, unreported crime, run amok in the communities. Number one, statutory rape. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about women in Black communities. Statutory rape is a thing. It is such a thing. It probably never goes reported. It is such a part of Black culture in America that nobody even probably talks about it. I can remember being in high school and having adult men dating people. I mean, when I say adult, I mean adult men, 25, 30 years old, picking up girls 15, 16 from my high school. They were drug dealers. They had money. They were driving nice cars. And the parents seemed to just turn a blind eye. The parents, as long as they were getting, the boys were paying a lot of times, single moms. It's another issue. A lot of times the moms, the boyfriends of the girl, grown men would pay rent for the single moms. So this is one of those things that never gets talked about. It is such an epidemic in Black community. It is so ingrained into the culture that people literally turn a blind eye to it. I would bet, I have not done the statistical research on this, but I would bet that the numbers of reporting this are so low. And it's not because it's not happening, it's because it's just one of those things. Oh, well, it's not our business. It's not our problem if, Johnny down the street who's 30 years old is always dating 15-year-olds. It is an epidemic, okay? So this is one crime that happens so regularly in Black communities that goes unreported. Now, does every Black man commit statutory rape? Clearly not. But let's not pretend like it's not something that people don't ignore. People ignore it. They flat out ignore it. I mean, it was happening when I was in high school. I know it's still happening today. I know it is. Let's talk about fatherlessness, okay? And yeah, it's a term that people, try to forget what you feel like you know about. Oh, people use that term all the time. They just use it as some, divisive method. That's not the issue. So I want to talk about how promiscuity, meaning men who are having babies creating all these babies' mamas and barely taking care, either not or barely taking care of their kids, not even being around for their kids, totally leaving the woman to be the man and the woman in the relationship. So I want to talk about when this kind of started. So we started to see this in more of the 60s, because before that, black people still believed in God, still prayed, and still were in two-parent households. No matter how rough the household was, they still kept it was important for them to keep together two-parent households. But then we had the introduction, or we had the introduction of the 70s blaxploitation films. What do I mean by blaxploitation films? We had all the films who depicted black men as pimps and drug dealers. Okay, we started getting that in the 70s, right? Pimps and drug dealers. So we showed movies. We had movies with, you know, Superfly and Dolomite and all these other pimp type characters in movies who were complete womanizers. And so what happened? Well, men looked up to these were the black faces that you saw in film. Men looked up to them. So what do we have? I'm not blaming this all on blaxploitation films, but I am saying that this does play a part in what was happening. We had the introduction to blaxploitation. We had crack cocaine entering. We had heroin. So there was a lot happening in the 70s. Most black men wanted to be Superfly, especially they wanted to be Dolomite. And so you had this rash of promiscuity, of men having multiple women, having babies all over the place, and then being irresponsible and just leaving them. And so this created an environment where you have single family homes. You have a mother trying to be a mother and a father. Okay? Now, I'm not putting this on the films. I'm not even putting this on saying it's crack's fault, it's the film's fault, because at the end of the day, we are all accountable for our actions. We can't point to something and blame it and say, here's the reason why, fill in the blank. But what I am saying is, it did not help anything. Another thing that happened during this time, the introduction of people like, not the introduction of, but people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton were really gaining popularity during this time in black communities. They were all, as a matter of fact, Jesse Jackson was the one who really promoted the term African American. Before that, we were called Negroes, which just really means black in Spanish. Negro is the same thing. We were called Negroes or colored people, and black people were not offended by these terms. They were not offended. It wasn't until Jesse Jackson started pushing his coalition and his race hustle agenda that we started to be termed African American. I do not consider myself African American. I consider myself Black American because I'm not African. My mother wasn't. My parents weren't African. Their parents weren't African. I mean, you'd have to dig pretty far back to find someone who's African. I am American. I happen to be black. Anyway, I digress. So we moved from the 70s blaxploitation films. Now, during all this time, what was also happening? So just before that, in 1963, in 62, prayer was removed from the schools. Okay? Prayer was removed from the schools. And then the next year, 1963, the Bible was removed from the schools. Okay? So immediately after that, teachers went from, in public schools, teachers went from complaining about kids chewing gum, throwing paper, running down the hallway, yelling, and talking in class. They went from those types of complaints to complaints about arson, threats of murder, physical acts of violence, and theft in the public schools. So what happens when you take that out? When you take that out, okay, because they say, oh, separation of church and state, but then they just replace it with the religion of evolution. People say, oh, but it's just science that we evolved from, some missing link that links us to primates. People are created in the image of God, and that they have a purpose, and that their identity, that they are supposed to steward and oversee creation, including primates. When you tell them that they actually one with nature, then all of a sudden, you know, we lose our identity, right? We're not made in the image of God. We're just gold dust, or, you know, just like any other creature, right? What does that do to a child's psyche when you tell them that they are no more than a cat or a flower? What does that do for a child when you tell them this life, there's nothing more? First of all, what happens to the accountability? There's no accountability. Who are you accountable to? If you're not accountable to God, then to who? Man? Well, man is, we're all equal. Hey, there's no accountability. So why not rob, pillage, and burn things up, right? When there's no price to pay for it. Colorism is another huge issue. Black people who mistreat people because they're darker than other black people. They get treated differently. Let's talk about colorism. And so all these things, I'm just bringing up that. I'm bringing up the pedophilia is an issue in black community. Y'all saw the movie Precious. If you haven't, check it out. People bring their boyfriends in and the boyfriends molest the kids. That's an epidemic. Something that people aren't talking about in black communities. That's problematic. Even a lot of times it goes unreported. Again, you saw the movie Precious. You think that was just, oh, that's a sad thing that happened. It must have been very isolated. It is not isolated. It is a common occurrence. It is something that is not talked about. So there are tons of crimes like this that the communities just kind of, you know, they talk amongst themselves. But they wouldn't dare share that with the outside world. So something happens. In bringing up this, it reminds me of something. So I did another video on cults, if you guys want to check that out. But it reminds me of this collective thinking. This thinking that says, even if it's wrong, because we've shared so many intimate details and so many intimate moments, that we now have something to bond about. Because these are things that are talked about and that discussed in black communities. These are things like people know who the neighborhood pervert is. People, the communities, they know who the weirdo is. They know who the old man is who exposes himself to children. Like, they know. They don't even call the cops. This happens regularly. They know who sells weed. They know the community knows it all. Will not go to the police. When they do go to the police, when law-abiding people in these communities, you know, the people I talked about earlier who actually go to work and who have decent jobs and who have their homes, when these people actually go to the cops, there are a lot of hoops that they have to jump through to get anything to happen. So they end up just walking away and not even filing a report. Oftentimes it's seen as, well, who were they with? Who did they see? And because they don't have enough evidence, the criminal gets off. And they end up back in the community. But now they're back in the community and other people have told them who snitched. So now your life is in danger. So now the law-abiding citizens in the communities are being held in terror in communities by criminals. How's this happening? How is it that criminals are holding people in terror? Well, they have guns. The criminals have guns in these communities, but oftentimes the law-abiding citizens don't. Well, why not? Well, the criminals are getting the guns illegally. Easily, but illegally. But the law-abiding citizens are being told by their local representatives that they don't need a gun, that guns kill people, that they shouldn't have a gun. And they say, yeah, you know what, you're right, because we want to do what's right by people. We don't want to have to kill people if we don't want to. So that's kind of the mindset. It's not that they see that guns are bad even necessarily, talking about the citizens. They know who's doing the crime. They've watched these boys grow up with mothers on crack and with fathers on selling crack, and they've seen all this stuff, pimps and prostitutes. They've seen it all. The last thing they want to do is have to shoot one of these people. The problem is these criminals have no problem shooting them, or mob jumping their kids, or robbing the local gas stations, or the list goes on and on. So these criminals have no problem getting access to guns, but the law-abiding citizens are discouraged from purchasing guns, which I find very, very disturbing, because you know those ancestors that we always talk about when we talk about building the country and racial disparity. You know, those very ancestors fought so that black people who were newly emancipated from slavery could possess firearms. They fought and died for the right for law-abiding black folk to be able to possess firearms. Okay? They fought and died for that. But you know what? Those same local representatives who are now telling black people in their communities that they shouldn't own guns, those are the same people who were trying to keep black people from getting guns post-slavery. So now, I bring all this up to say, I fear that black Americans, your gripe is not with white people. I fear that this is not your plight. Racial injustice is not the problem in this country. Are there racists? Obviously. There are racists in black communities. We know that, so let's not play games and act like people don't do kitchen talk about white people this, white people that, and how many of the black people you know want to be white because they talk white, because they wear white clothes, white people clothes, because they wear. So we're not going to play that game about racism in black communities. So we know there's racism in every community to some degree, as far as in an individual level. But by and large, when you talk about a system of racism, under Jim Crow, there was a system of racism. I am certain that there are people, representatives in your communities, who watch crime happen. They have not put any new programs in the community. They are not talking about how you can help grow your community. They are not engaging people, inviting them into make things better. They are really focused on racism, which is interesting to me since there are not many white people in your community. So where's all this racism coming from? They try to say it's systematic because if you ask the question, but I don't even talk to white people on a regular basis. I live in my community. I barely see whites unless I go downtown or whatever. Unless I leave my community. So when you say stuff like that, people say, "Oh, no, but it's systematic, so you can't see it." It's a lying argument, is what it is. It's a deceptive argument. You need to look at how your local representatives have been exploiting black people in their communities all these years. Okay, look at your local representatives, find out what they're about, how much money they're making. How much they're making. I cannot tell you in black communities who are run by black aldermen, black mayors, the list goes on. Black representatives, that the level of theft from the funds from the people and the level of deceit in these communities is rank. It is terrible. So you guys need to look at your representatives and find out what they're really doing with the funds that they're supposed to be pouring into the community to help the community. Because like I said, the news would have people think that everybody in the black community is out robbing and shooting. But what I know growing up in the hood, if you will, is that you have half hardworking citizens who just want to make it through the day. They just want to support their families. And then you have the other half that's pooking them, and they're out here robbing, thieving, trying to date your 14-year-old daughters and molesting children. Let's be real. It's happening. Let's not pretend like it's not happening. Let's not pretend that these crimes are not run amok. So instead of out there marching about racism in some system, we don't even know what system it is. We just kind of make up, it sounds like people just make it up as they go. Oh, the system, the housing system, the banking, oh, it's in all the systems. Let's not be so gullible. We need to think long and hard about how we're being exploited for people's gain, for gain of people, politicians who've been in there like 30, 40 years, every year coming into the neighborhoods, talking about hot sauce and chicken wings and how they're down with the struggle and yada yada yada, and we sit in there and we keep voting them in because they're down with the struggle. Meanwhile, our streets are being ravaged by the half of the community who are crazy, manic, undisciplined, want to rob and steal and destroy the community because they, whatever happened, maybe it's a result of all the pedophilia and the other things that are happening in the community that people aren't even allowed to talk about. So ask yourself, what is your representative doing about it? Let's start there. Let's not, because now all of if you live in the hood, this rioting, you experience this on a daily. This is not new. You experience this on a daily basis. Okay? People think, oh my gosh, people are appalled. They watch this and they're like, oh, they're out of control. Like, yeah, they're out of control, but they're out of control in the black communities every single day. Like, this is not new. So let's talk about the black community and the healing that needs to take place in black communities. Okay? Let's stop protecting criminals. Let's stop protecting pedophiles. Let's stop, loving and leaving them. Let's stop sleeping with so many women and having babies all over the place. Let's take care of the ones that you have. Let's marry the mom. Let's be legit. Can we talk about being legitimate, or are we not allowed to get married, have a family? Everything that I've talked about in this video, I think, runs so deep in these communities that people are not even willing, have buried it. People are not even willing to confront it. And I think the anger that we're seeing in the street is a result of all of these things that's happening in the communities regularly. The failed schools in the communities. And I don't want to hear about some systemic racism. First, let's look at the local representatives. Who did you elect to the school board? Who did you elect to who's the alderman? I remember growing up, we had an alderman. And my mom used to say, I'm not voting for him. He's a drunk. I see him. Every time I see him, he's drinking. I'm sure he's misusing the funds. My mom, she wasn't even that political, but she would see him and he was always drunk. Alderman, people voted him in because he was cool. He was black and he was cool. Come to find out, he was misusing the funds. This is happening all around you. So instead of directing, all I'm saying is you're fighting the wrong fight and you're being exploited by politicians who have exploited black people for years in this country. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Let's think about this. Let's start to heal some of the wounds that are happening within the community before we start saying it's white systemic racism. Who are we electing? Who are we electing? We're electing people because they're black. We're electing all these representatives. Look at Baltimore. Have you seen Baltimore? Everybody got mad because President Trump made that comment about Baltimore. But it's terrible. And they have black aldermen, a black mayor, a black police team. Force, black. It's run by black folks. Baltimore. Y'all voted them in. And it looks like a third world country in some parts. Why? What are they doing with the money? What are they doing with the money? All I'm saying is, instead of listening to what celebrities, to people who have come to this country and made millions of dollars, talk about haves and have-nots, let's take a look at our local representatives. Find out, who are we electing? Should we be electing somebody else? Should we do our part? We should pay attention to who we're electing. Why are we electing these people? We're electing people who come into our communities, make promises, never keep them. Why? And not voting is not the answer either. The answer is, do your research. Somebody starts running for office, take a look at them. There's not oppression in this country like that. So let's just squash that. Let's just squash that. We're systematic. The professors are working with the same politicians. That's the system right there. The professors are working with the politicians, are working with the whomever to get you on their bandwagon. If they can get you continually on their bandwagon, they never have to fix your schools. They never have to rid your neighborhoods of all the pedophiles and pooking them. They can just leave pooking them and the pedophiles and all of them on the streets while you're there with your kids. Defenseless, with no weapon. Just think for yourself. That's what I'm saying. I didn't create this video to try to poo-poo on black communities. All I'm saying is there's a lot to be cleaned up in black communities, and it has nothing at all to do with white racism. All right? Sorry, this was a rant, I know, but I had to get it out there. All right?